the folks that I've seen go through it didn't necessarily know that they were speaking with, and I'm talking strictly from a voice standpoint. They didn't strictly know that they were, or know that they were strictly talking to an AI agent.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Student Housing Insight Podcast, where we are putting you in touch with all things student housing. I'm your host, Wesley Deese. I'm also the CEO of Student Housing Insight. We are a platform for off-campus student housing professionals to network and share ideas as well as data. You can find out more about our platform at studenthousinginsight.com. In addition to this podcast, we also host the industry's monthly webinar for the U.S. called Shop Talk. Each month, each of our Shop Talks will provide a legislative and a policy update that are concerning things that are impacting our industry. Shop Talk will also provide a monthly overview of pre-leasing data on both a national and a regional basis, along with a panel of operators who provide their on-the-ground observations of what's happening with pre-leasing. And we typically provide a topic of the month as well. So a lot of great information. And if you are involved with the operations of student housing in the U.S., you should certainly be registered to receive our monthly invites. You can register to receive those, as well as review our prior Shop Talk webinars by going to shoptalk.info. Again, that's shoptalk.info, but we'll also provide a link to that website, as well as all the other information that we provide on today's podcast. Well, again, I want to welcome you to the podcast. This episode's kind of it falls between our profiles in student housing series that we do, where I interview typically an industry veteran about their career, and it's probably a cross between that and our Behind the Biz series, which I'll probably put this in our Behind the Biz series on our YouTube channel. But those are where we highlight, the products and the services from one of our supplier partnership members. If you're not familiar with the Student Housing Insight Supplier Partnership Program, it's a cohort of vendors to the student housing industry that they're not just providing products and services to the industry, but they're really looking to solve problems that are specific to operating student housing, both on and off campus. And they really also support the mission of what we're doing here at Student Housing Insight, which is simply make student housing better. But I would also say they are also very capable of providing thought leadership to the industry. So I want to spend a little bit of time this year definitely identifying those companies and talking about what they're doing. But a new company that is joining our 2026 cohort is VerbaFlo. Unless I say VerbaFlo and you're probably like, wait a minute, what was that? Unless you follow what is happening in Europe's student housing or student accommodation sector, VerbaFlo is probably not a name you're familiar with. That's going to change in 2026 as VerbaFlo is bringing their conversational AI platform. I think that's what we're calling it these days. But one of these AI platforms that we're seeing a lot of them hit the market. I don't know that I will say I've seen a demo of several demos of VerbaFlo and have been really, really impressed at some of the directions that they're taking with their platform compared to others that I've demoed. But VerbaFlo took on the UK student accommodation sector and really greater Europe this past year, creating partnerships with some of the operators. Again, these names may not be familiar with you if you're here in the US, but Vita Student, Downing Student, Unilife. They took rolling out, that communication tool that combines chat, voice, email, really just all, messaging apps that you can think of into really one unified, intelligent system, I guess is the best way of describing it. But VerbaFlo ended 2025 by taking home Property Week's PropTech of the Year award for student accommodations. So VerbaFlo is really hitting out of the park, and there's certainly regardless if you're in the US or in the UK or Canada or Australia, they're really a company that you've got to keep your eye on. But one of their co-founders is Dan Smith, and Dan is no stranger to this podcast or to the student housing world. I first interviewed Dan, I think back in 2018, when I was in London interviewing several operators, and he was at the time the managing director for Nido Living, and he was on the podcast again, I think in 2019, when I interviewed a panel of U.S. operators who were expanding outside of the U.S. And he joined that panel to give a perspective of, I guess, operating differences specifically in the UK. So it was great having him on that episode. But Dan reached out to me a couple of months ago and to let me know that he's bringing VerbaFlo to the U.S. And I told him he had to attend Lease Con TurnCon, which was happening in December. And he really needed to do that in order to meet, many of the operators and give them kind of a preview of VerbaFlo and get some initial feedback from them. And he agreed that the timing was perfect. And so he made his way to Charlotte for Lease Con TurnCon. And I told him, I said, we've got to take advantage of us being in the same room for the first time in 5 years and record a podcast and talk about what he's been up to and really tell the student housing insight about VerbaFlo. So without further ado, here's my conversation catching up with Dan Smith.
Well, Dan, welcome to the U.S.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here.
Well, we are at the end of Lease Con TurnCon. It ended yesterday, and then we had our Shop Talk Executive Summit. Thanks for being a sponsor of that with VerbaFlo. But I wanted to catch a few minutes since we had some studio space where we're meeting at today. I wanted to make sure that we got a chance to do a little bit of a collab because we've talked about doing this. You and I have gone back several years now, and want to make sure everybody's also aware. We'll get into Dan's past and what he's doing now, but he's also the co-host of the Housed podcast, which is covering all things certainly purpose-built student accommodation in the UK and Europe, but also a couple of the other sectors, niche sectors as well within the UK. And so if you've got any interest, to my U.S. audience, if you've got any interest in the UK and what is happening with student housing, that is the place to catch up each week. You've done a fantastic job, you and your co-hosts, of making sure that you're staying consistent on a weekly basis.
We've copied your formula. So
well, I have not been. I've been at least consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
But you guys have done a great job of typically drops every Friday, every Saturday.
Yeah.
And you guys have got some great content and really love what you guys are doing. But you've got a little bit of a past in purpose-built student accommodations. Why don't you kind of hit that and set the stage a little bit? Because I want to make sure that our audience understands. You've been on the podcast before. I've went to London and interviewed you several years ago. But yeah, I think probably just a quick recap of what your experience has been.
So I fell into student housing 10 years ago now. It feels like there was no career before that, but my trajectory was university, sports travel, gin. So I launched the Bombay Sapphire Gin Distillery, and then fell into student accommodation.
As one does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the common thing, sports travel, drink, student housing is pretty obvious. The holy trinity, that is, isn't it? But the common theme is hospitality, and it's really experience. Now with student accommodation, it's resident experience. But I fell into the student accommodation sector because ultimately I had no idea what the student housing was even a thing. And I'd come to the end of a 2-year contract with Bacardi, launching the Bombay Sapphire Distillery, and wanted a challenge. So I went along to a job interview, and I was going for sales and marketing director. And sure enough, took that role. Within 3 months, I was managing director, because I think the company I was at the time was a bit rudderless. So I put myself forward, and made it all up as I went along. So I had to learn everything about the systems, the staffing, the different seasonality of selling student housing, what it looks like in terms of each of the rooms. And this was a student housing, certainly not as I knew it.
Right.
It wasn't halls or dorms or the typical student houses that we have in the UK. It was big premium blocks of student accommodation, as we call it. And I learnt the ropes, built the plane whilst flying, and made a few mistakes along the way, but nothing major. So that allowed me to then have a bit of a voice within the industry, because we had a lot of success with the likes of Starwood and KKR and TPG investing their capital in the UK, and we went from 4 to 120 people in our back office, and that was my job to build that out. So I took a lot of the hospitality experience from previous roles, general leadership experience, and just tried to apply that. And along the way, I've been able to create a bit of a voice. And now with VerbaFlo and with the consultancy work that I do as well, that's allowed me to share that voice on Housed podcast, but also on LinkedIn as well. I do a lot on there too. And, it was during lockdown that I set up Resi Consultancy. I moved away from operations and set up Resi Consultancy, working with multifamily, or BTR as we call it in Europe, and then co-living, but primarily with student housing investors, overseeing the performance of their properties. So I know what it takes to elicit best practice. I know the frustrations with all the systems and the tech, and that allowed me to do some property management system reviews, really. People will come to me and say, which one shall I go with? Like, I'm looking at getting a new PMS, because traditionally we've found that not many people are really happy with their PMS consistently. There's always things that they would change, and I think that's just the nature of the beast. You can't find that one system, the one system to rule them all, to sort of quote Lord of the Rings. But I was doing a project for quite a big student accommodation operator, put it out there on LinkedIn as to, is there something out there that is better than what's currently out there, but also that uses AI, because I could see the direction of travel. And this was maybe 18 months ago or so. And I actually think you're a bit further along with AI in the US, but in the UK and Europe, there was no platform at all. People weren't really talking about agentic AI or anything like that. And so I then had Shantan reach out to me. He's a peer of mine, someone who I've worked with in the past. He was the founder of a marketplace called Uniaco, which was placing around 15,000 students into accommodation and housing, student housing in the UK. And he said, I've got this thing, let me show you. It is genuinely the real deal. And so he did a demo for me, just of voice. It was a student trying to book a room. Like he basically pretended he was a student booking a room in a student house in London. And it blew me away, genuinely. I remember that reaction. It gives me goosebumps when I think about it, because that was a real pivotal moment in my career, because I could see that there were solutions out there.
Yeah.
And this, I knew, would just floor everybody. And so I jumped in with both feet, became a co-founder, and said, I will take it to market. And that we've done very successfully over the course of the last 10 months. We've iterated the product to make sure that it's right for everybody, and that we can tailor it, and that we can really make sure it's agile. Because one thing we see with a lot of systems out there, especially the legacy systems, they're not agile. You can't get any kind of development done within a 1 year or possibly 2 year time frame. So we've made sure the system's agile. You can create an agentic AI or some kind of AI agent, whether it be for leasing lead qualification or for maintenance management or for debt chasing, whatever it might be. You can create that really simply. And so we iterated the product. I took it to market, and we've closed 200,000 beds in the UK and Europe. And, we're starting to come to the US with some of those European clients that are going to roll us out over in the US too. But we're now here trying to showcase that we can tailor AI to every single operator, whether you've got 500 beds in one asset or you've got 100,000 beds and, however many student housing assets. And so that's really the next step. This was a nice learning experience for us to come over here, and we don't want to take the arrogant approach of, this worked in the UK and Europe, so why won't it work in the US?
That'll never fly over.
No. Oh, yeah, exactly. And I've done that before. You and I have worked together in the past. I know the way that US housing,
Yeah.
student housing is set up.
Well, and what I like about it, because you demoed this to me probably a year ago now, and you could tell it was built off of something for student housing, and the UNACO makes complete sense as to, why they went down that road, because you've got, with that marketplace, you've got, in any marketplace, you've got so many students coming from different parts of the world, different languages, and different platforms that they want to speak through. And I will say that that's something that I've evaluated several of these platforms, and I will say there is something different with VerbaFlo when it comes to specifically with students. And the conversational part about it, I remember even kind of putting it through, kind of testing it out, and just telling the agent, hey, I need just a moment. And the response was, yes, take your time.
Yeah.
And it's, I haven't seen that with some of the other agents. And so I think it's amazing the folks that I've seen go through it didn't necessarily know that they were speaking with, and I'm talking strictly from a voice standpoint. They didn't strictly know that they were, or know that they were strictly talking to an AI agent. So I think you guys got that right.
That's the incredible thing. And yeah, the origin of it is that Shantan created VerbaFlo as an AI communications platform because he already had an office of 300 people in Mumbai. To scale the business, he would have had to have hired another 300 people unless he deployed AI. And that's what he did. He set to work doing that. And then in the previous fundraise, the last fundraise for Uniaco, Shantan exited that business completely, spun out VerbaFlo, and that's when we started taking it to market. So a few things had to fall into place for it to all, it was literally the perfect storm of me wanting to make sure that I could showcase the best possible tech platform, an AI communications platform in particular, to help streamline a lot of operations, to drive efficiencies, to save time, money, and resource, and really help the community managers especially to focus on what they're really good at, which is building that sense of community and ensuring that they can fill beds and keep those residents happy. It all just came together really nicely with Shantan exiting, VerbaFlo being that perfect product for it. And so it is an AI communications platform. What we're finding is that it is starting to replace CRMs. So we integrate with multiple different property management systems, all of the systems typically in the US. And we have to work hard to make sure that those integrations are right and you're pulling the pricing and availability and all the information that you might possibly need at any given time. And obviously, we're taking data from that PMS, we're taking data from a CRM if you've got it, or you can use us as a standalone CRM. It is helping to save money on that systems architecture as well as the staffing as well. And the initial staffing, because everyone's always concerned with, oh God, is this going to mean that I have to get rid of my sales team? No,
Right.
not necessarily. I think there is a certain direction of travel. We know that AI is going to focus on streamlining some of those customer service roles and some of those sales roles. Right now, we're seeing that it means that some of the larger operators that we work with, they don't have to hire up seasonal team members as much. But really interesting talking to some of the people here at Shop Talk today on how much the efficiencies are actually driving reduction in staffing as well on site. And there's two sides to that coin. I think it's an interesting one because we want to make sure that we can help our clients focus on building that sense of community, but offering instant responsiveness on multiple channels. So we're in 180 languages. We're on email, voice, anything over the phone, web chat, to your typical sort of chat bot that you would find on your website, but it's all completely conversational. And then WhatsApp as well. We're close to WeChat. We've got our WeChat license. We're then looking at meta messaging, because if something that came out of the conference, Lease Con, yesterday was you have to meet the students where they are. You can't just expect that they're just going to be on campus or they're just going to be searching on Google. Right. You have to meet those students where they are. And that's what VerbaFlo allows you to do in 180 languages on 6 different channels. And that's making a big difference because we've built a platform around it. It's not just an agent where it's just operating in the background. There is a full platform, effectively an AI CRM platform behind it that will triage absolutely every element of your business. We've got 40 different use cases. So it's not just Well, we've got leasing, so you have to pay for that. And then, oh, we've got maintenance, so you have to pay for that. We fold in all of these use cases into a subscription model. It's really simple. And we'll make sure that as we keep adding those use cases, every single operator can benefit. So we're not going to be pushing, oh, here's this extra module. Oh, you've got to pay for that. Because we see those frustrations with the existing AI platforms that people are using in the US. They are, to be quite confrontational about it, they are very expensive and they are very rigid. So yeah, we see the opportunity.
A couple of things. I mean, one, I think there's a lot of, just coming off of OpTech, and this has been a huge conference season. You got on a plane right after getting an award in Wembley Stadium at the Property Week Awards, and congratulations to you and the VerbaFlo team on that. What was the specific category?
It was PropTech Awards, so it was Best PropTech of 2025.
Nice.
For student housing. So it was the Student Accommodation Award. I'd totally forgotten that, to be completely honest. I am chasing my tail at the moment. I'm here, there, and everywhere. But it was an incredible night. So yeah, getting that trophy, and that was the one we wanted. You know, we've been very select with which awards we've entered, and that was the one we really wanted, because I'm not saying I would have stormed the stage like Kanye West if we hadn't won, but you know, to get 200,000 beds on board, but not just that, because in a similar way to you probably could, I can make a few phone calls. I have a network and a profile that allows me to reach out to people and get demos. This product has to work. It had to work for me to come on board in the first place. And then it had to work for the clients that we've got to actually use it and continue using it. And we haven't lost anybody. Anyone who signed a contract, we have zero churn. So that's making a big, big difference, the fact that this product seriously works. And I think that's why all of our entry was just testimonials. It was just what operators were saying about it. We didn't bother doing any talking. We didn't really write much in it. We just said, hear from Homes for Students, you know, one of the largest operators, hear from Vita, hear from Downing, hear from various others. So, yeah.
Well, and the one thing I appreciate that you guys are doing, and it came up today in our workshop with Shop Talk, was some of the operators complained about, they are evaluating technology, and part of that evaluation, those service providers are wanting to do contracted pilot programs, meaning, look, you've got 3 months to do it. If for some reason you don't pay attention to the date or whatever, you're now stuck into a contract. And that's not something you guys are doing.
No, we will give a 3-month free pilot with all the integration taken care of, because we already have those integrations ready. A 3-month free pilot for anyone to try that. If you like it after those 3 months, we have a contract for you, but we do not contract you in. The reason that we do that is because we know we have to prove ourselves, especially selling this into the US is very different to selling it into, say, Europe or Australia and the UK, as we have done so far, because we're pushing more of an open door, and we are the major solution in each of those markets. But in the US, we know there are incumbents. We know we're going to have to work quite hard to make this work. And the only way to do that is to really show everybody that it works, and it's incredibly cost effective. It's excellent value. And so by offering a 3-month free pilot, and then saying after that, if you like it, great, take a 12-month contract. But we're always very upfront with the pricing to make sure that it's super clear. When you're doing the pilot, you know exactly what you would be paying for your 12-month contract. And we're in this for the long term. You know, we've done very well with the investment that we've attracted to date, and we've made sure we've deployed it in the right areas. So we've got 35 AI engineers and then 15 quality control engineers as well, who are constantly looking. We call them the kind of human in the loop, because we know that we've got a brilliant system that is learning from each of the operators about each of the properties to make sure that it can talk specifically about that property or that operator in its tone of voice and with their brand guidelines, and focusing on the USPs of that property. But we know that we need to make sure that we're monitoring that. It isn't just a case of, we've built this brilliant system and the AI keeps learning and writing and writing the code itself and everything. We know we need to make sure that we have the customer success team, because we've seen that firsthand when certain PropTech platforms have oversold and underdelivered. I've seen that globally. I think everybody has. The sales team is me at the moment. but we've got such a big customer success team, and it's their job to really make sure that we deliver that success. So that's where the pilots will work, and every single pilot that we've had has worked so far. All of those 200,000 beds, they took a pilot and then they carried on, and they started their contract as soon as the pilot finished. So
great. So 2026 is going to be a big year for VerbaFlo coming to the US. You guys are ready to go now, but officially 2026.
Yeah, definitely.
And a lot of folks end up catching up on the podcast right before they go into Interface Student Housing Conference, which is coming up in late March. Because it's always crazy. I don't know how much you guys look at your podcast downloads, but it's like every time we go right into a conference or some type of public event, you can look at the downloads, and like all of a sudden somebody's caught up on, the past 10, 12 episodes. So someone may be listening to this on the flight to Austin in late March right now. And are you guys going to be there? Will you be
we will definitely
exhibiting?
Be there.
Okay.
I will be at Interface with some of the team as well. I think we will make sure that we put on a good show there. And it's an interesting one because as a consultant to the sector, as you know, my consultancy runs itself. Resi Consultancy runs itself. We still work with some quite big investors and operators, but that's a good platform for me to be able to speak just in general about student housing. So
what keeps you, and that's for me, Student Housing Insight came after I chose to be a consultant, and I realized the space really needed a third-party consultant that was not directly tied to a specific operator, because depending on the market, that operator may have a conflict of interest. And so, and then SHI was something that was just, hey, we're gonna do this, try to get a Providential Student Housing, my consulting company, in front of more people, and it was. And I think Housed, the same thing has happened with you. It gets such love from the industry because it's one of the few resources that are out there that they can stay up to date on things in a format that they appreciate. And but the consultancy part of it, at least it's been this way for me, is what's kept me grounded to what's really happening with operators, because I am helping other companies with their business development. We're going to be doing the same thing with VerbaFlo, and it's but I'm glad you've done that, because I think it keeps us both really grounded in what's happening.
It's really difficult, but I know that the things that I said on stage at Lease Con, at TurnCon, and the things that I just said in our forum today would not have landed if I'd have said, "Hey, I'm a tech salesman.
Yeah,
I'm just here to flog you AI and that's it." The fact that I know the markets on a global level as well. I understand the US. I understand how decentralized that is compared to the UK and Europe. Just done a big LinkedIn post on that because I think that's what people will find interesting. I'm constantly looking for those challenges, the pain points, the differentiators, and that's what has made me a very successful consultant in that way, and as it has with you. But it's also then opened the door with VerbaFlo, because when I talk to Sarah from Core Spaces or Jake from Redstone or whoever it might be, I do it with a certain degree of credibility, because I'm able to talk in generality about the markets and some of the issues that we're facing. It's been really interesting to listen about the leasing cycle in the US, because it's mirroring the UK at the moment, and some of the concessions, as you'd call them, or the incentives or whatever, I'm able to talk about that. And then we've obviously got Paul here from Student Crowd as well, and he's picking up so much information from all of these people, but we're able to share what's going on in the UK, and I think that's just really important, to be able to not just sell, because hey,
we've been sold to.
Exactly. Everyone's been sold to, but you're American. You know how to sell. Like, I'm not going to come over here and teach you how to suck eggs. I think the focus is very much for us on building that credibility within the industry, which hopefully we'll do through events and through me spending a lot of time over here. Yeah. And then hopefully the sales will come. But the proof is in the pudding, which is why we're so confident with a 3-month pilot.
Yeah. Well, it's so you'll be there in March.
Yep.
If folks want to get in touch with you, I always tell everybody, make sure that if they've got any interest in understanding what's happening in the UK, to certainly follow you on LinkedIn. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of Dan Smith here in the US. So regardless if you're interested in the UK or not, I would say make sure that you're following Dan on LinkedIn. But what are the other ways they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can have a look at the website. It's just verbaflo.ai. So verbaflo.ai. And yeah, LinkedIn's a great place to find me, but Housed Podcast as well. So it's just Housed, the Shared Living Podcast. That should come up if you type it into your podcast engine of choice. But yeah, LinkedIn, just Dan Smith, student housing. That should bring me up, I would have thought.
I think you've got great co-hosts and Sarah and Deanie.
Oh,
and
God, yeah.
I hope maybe you can bring them to Austin as well. Great. And maybe we could just we'll get Greta on as well. And we'll have a huge collab for that, because love they bring a lot more of the marketing side to it.
Yep.
And that's so key, in having that balance is what makes House such a great podcast. Listen, thanks for taking the time out here. You just came off of having a newborn. What was that even 3 months ago?
No, it wasn't. It was 9 weeks ago, and I don't know if I'm jet lagged or just lack of. My wife won't listen to this, I'm sure. So I think I'm safe in saying that I've caught up on a bit of sleep while I'm out here, actually. But
jet lag and all, you've still been able to catch up. That's funny.
Exactly.
That's funny. Well, yes, congratulations on the newborn. And excited to see what's ahead for 2026.
Absolutely.
And for those that are watching on YouTube, I'm sorry, we did not plan both wearing the same thing today. But hey, we both look great in it,
Student housing podcaster uniform this is, I think. So
well, and there's a thing going on in the US right now in regards to burgundy shirts that I'll have to tell you about.
Oh God.
It's very tied in politically. Not the reason I wore mine today.
Okay. Oh God.
It was literally the one thing that was easy to grab out of the closet today. So,
I've got to change of clothes, so yeah, depending on what that story is, but I might have to change.
I'll tell you about it. But yeah, thanks so much for coming to the US and sharing VerbaFlo with us at Lease Con TurnCon, and we'll see you in March.
Thanks so much for your help as well, Wes. Great to see you as always.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks.